Okay, so you sent us this concept for a potential Susanna Clarke novel,
Uh-huh.
The Wood at Midwinter.
Right.
And
Yeah, it's a really cool idea.
yeah, it's a really cool idea. And just to lay it out there for the listeners,
Yeah.
a mystical forest,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that only appears during the winter solstice,
That's right.
a place where magic blends with reality.
It's almost like a hidden world.
Yeah, and at the center of this is Helena, an
Mm.
academic who feels this pull
Yeah.
to uncover her family's connection to this very special place.
Right. And it's interesting because she's guided by
Oh,
these,
yeah.
her grandmother's journals, which are full of cryptic symbols.
Oh, yeah. It's like a treasure hunt.
It is. It's like a treasure hunt
Yeah.
through history and magic.
Stories of the old forest. And
All right.
so that's kind of the general setup.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like it has all the hallmarks of a Susanna Clarke novel, right? Like this blending of the mundane and the magical,
Uh-huh.
the power of these ancient forces, and the role that humans play in these kind of mystical landscapes.
It's kind of like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, but instead of like 19th century England,
Exactly.
we're in this timeless forest.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's even more interesting because this forest only appears
Right.
at midwinter.
Well, making it even more
And
otherworldly.
it is. I mean, it's a place out of time,
Yeah.
ruled by beings that are neither fully spirit nor fully human.
What do you think those beings might be like?
Well, I mean, think of the woods in classic fairy tales, right?
Okay.
Sometimes they're menacing, sometimes they're protective.
Right.
But I think, from what Clark's describing, this wood is alive. It's almost sentient.
Right.
Its fate is intertwined with Helena's journey
Right.
and the encroaching human world.
Yeah. So that kind of brings us to the conflict at the heart of this story.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Helena, who's trying to unravel her family's secrets and encounter these mystical creatures, but at the same time, this magical wood is threatened
Yes.
by the very world she comes from.
Absolutely. And I think the timing is crucial here.
Oh, yeah.
The winter solstice,
Yeah.
this time of transition and rebirth, becomes almost like a deadline for Helena's choices. It's
Wow.
like a very fitting climax for a story that's exploring these themes of legacy sacrifice
Right.
and this very delicate balance between these worlds.
So what do you think? What forms could this encroachment take?
Well, I mean, you could imagine industrial development, pushing towards the forest's edges,
Yeah.
or maybe even something like climate change, threatening its delicate ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I think Helena, being an academic, might find herself
Uh-huh.
caught between, her understanding of the natural world
Right.
and these encroaching forces of human progress.
It's like she's battling these two sides.
Exactly.
On the one hand, she's drawn to uncover these mysteries of her family's past and this magical forest.
Right.
But she's also a product of the very world that might be putting the wood at risk.
Yeah, and the way Clarke describes the forest, the shifting trees, the hidden glades,
Yeah.
these like spectral lights guiding Helena's path, it makes you think that the wood itself is almost like a character.
It's like it has a personality of its own.
Yeah, almost sentient,
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, could this be a metaphor for something deeper?
Like what?
Well, like the subconscious,
Uh-huh.
a place where our primal fears and desires reside.
Interesting.
And what happens when the conscious world, represented by humanity, tries to control or exploit it?
Well, that's deep.
It is.
So with the solstice acting as this deadline,
Yeah,
the tension builds as she uncovers her family's secrets
right.
and potentially encounters these mystical beings that inhabit the forest.
Absolutely. It's a race against time.
Yeah.
It reminds me of those ancient myths where certain groves were sacred,
Uh-huh.
protected by nature spirits.
Yeah.
What if Helena discovers that her ancestors were guardians of this forest,
Oh, wow.
entrusted with keeping its magic safe from the outside world?
That would be a huge responsibility.
It would be.
So would she embrace that ancient role?
Right.
Even if it meant sacrificing her place in the human world?
Or would she prioritize protecting humanity,
Right.
even if it meant the forest's magic fades away?
These are tough choices.
They are.
It really makes you think about the choices we make every day
Right.
that impact the balance of our planet.
Yeah.
So we've explored this imagined world, this wood at midwinter,
Mm-hmm.
but the big question remains,
It's a big question, yeah.
what path will Helena choose?
Will she become a guardian of the forest?
Will she side with humanity, even at the cost of the magical?
It's something to ponder.
Yeah, it is something to ponder.
And maybe even look for echoes of those choices in our own lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive
Yeah, thanks for having me.
into the wood at Midwinter.
It's fun.
Until next time.